Good morning, Chairman Price, Chairman Gordon, committee members. My name is Jason Kaiser, and I am the Interim Executive Officer of the Physical Therapy Board of California. With me today, I'm happy to present our board president, Governor appointee Deborah Alviso, public member, Senate appointee Carol Walsh, and I'll start off with a few basics about the board. Firstly, our mission. The mission of the Physical Therapy Board is to promote and protect the interests of the people of California by the effective and consistent administration and enforcement of the Physical Therapy Practice Act. The Physical Therapy Practice Act was established in 1953, and its statutes created the Physical Therapy Examining Committee under the Medical Board of California. Several legislative amendments occurred between 1971 and 1996, transferring administrative oversight previously designated to the Medical Board to the PTEC. One of those amendments, Chapter 829, Statutes of 1996, renamed the Physical Therapy Examining Committee to the Physical Therapy Board of California. The board is comprised of 7 members, 4 governor-appointed professional members, 1 governor-appointed public member, 1 Senate-appointed public member, and 1 Assembly-appointed public member. Currently, we have 1 public vacancy. The board's budget is $3,357,003, and it has 3 months reserve in its fund. And with that, I'll hand over to our board president, Deborah Alviso.
Good morning. We are pleased to be here today for our sunset hearing. In addition to the material in our report and the background paper, I'd like to give a brief introduction to our functions. The highest priority and function of the Physical Therapy Board of California is to protect the public from incompetent, unprofessional, and fraudulent practice of physical therapy. The PTBC has 4 distinct programs: administration, application and licensing, consumer protection, and continuing competency. The Administrative Services Program is an essential entity of the Board for fiscal operations, business services, human resources, policy review, and outreach. Applications and licensing. Included in the application processing is the verification of education and application information, criminal background check through fingerprint processing through DOJ and FBI. Applicants are required to pass 2 examinations: the National Physical Therapy Exam and the California Law Exam. PTBC maintains and administers these exams via a contract with the Federations of State Boards of Physical Therapy. The Physical Therapy Board also maintains and administers examinations for specialty certifications in electromyography. The board licenses physical therapists, physical therapist assistants, and provides certifications to qualified licensees to perform electromyography. Since inception, the board has issued and remains responsible for over 40,000 physical therapy licenses and 10,000 physical therapist licenses. There are approximately 21,863 active physical therapist licenses and 5,381 active physical therapist assistant licenses. Consumer Protection Services. The Physical Therapy Board of California enforcement is under the CPS, or Consumer Protection Services. Consumer Protection Services includes the intake of complaints, assignment for internal investigation, assignment to the DCA's Division of Investigation, and determination of the course of action warranted, closure, citation, or formal discipline. CPS also includes monitoring of licensees on probation to ensure compliance with the terms of their probation. The PTBC's probation monitor currently oversees 67 licensees on probation throughout California. Continuing competency. Following the 2005 Sunset Review, the Physical Therapy Board obtained authority to implement a continuing competency program. The regulations implementing the program took effect on November 6, 2009. Licensees must complete 30 hours of continuing competency activities in a 2-year renewal cycle. Subject matter requirements include ethics, laws, and regulations, and life support for health professionals. The Continuing Competency Program monitors compliance via audits of the licensees. The Physical Therapy Board also recognizes third-party approval agencies to approve continuing competency activities. The enacting of the continuing competency requirements provides a mechanism to require licensees to stay current, yet provides flexibility for them to advance or remediate knowledge and skills according to their individual practice. We've worked diligently to meet our charge of public protection. We would like to share some of the highlights since our last Sunset Review. Of note is that we have experienced leadership changes. Our long-term executive officer, Mr. Steve Hartzell, retired from the board in July of 2011 after 22 years of state service. Our assistant executive officer, Rebecca Marco, served as interim executive officer, then as executive officer until her retirement in December of 2012. And that was after 38 years of state service. Mr. Kaiser has maintained numerous roles within the board and most recently was appointed by the board as interim executive officer. During this same time period, PTBC underwent a significant change in the delivery frequency of our national exam. We participated in an audit conducted by the Bureau of State Audits, and we launched our continuing competency program. Although the leadership changes we've experienced were not easy, the continued progress of the programs and the continued service levels speaks volumes regarding the culture that exists at all levels of the Physical Therapy Board. We are fortunate to have a staff with experience, commitment, and longevity with the board. The newer staff members have been exposed to and adopted the culture of responsibility and dedication to consumer protection. I also must commend the members of the board in their willingness to assist and be true leaders amidst these changes. Fellow board member, Ms. Carol Wallish, will now make some comments.
Yes, I'm a former Senate and Assembly staffer. Worked for about 20 years for the state legislature, and I'm the newest member of the board. I've been with the board about 18 months, and I really didn't know what to expect as a board member, but I was so impressed with how seriously both the board and the staff took their jobs when we really started experiencing problems with workload. Members of the board volunteered. We had a lot to do with putting together the Sunset Report. Members of the board helped examine budgets and tried to come up with ideas on how to save money. And the staff itself has just been very, very concerned about doing a good job. And one of their concerns was that somehow or other they have such huge workloads that they would miss someone and actually let someone get a license or miss someone who should have their license revoked and, allow a serious criminal loose on the public. So we are really serious about what we do, and it's very important to us that we do a good job. And with that, I just wanted to sort of give my first impressions of the board and the staff before I began. So back to the changes since the last Sunset Report. First, we improved our communication with the public and with our licensees. Our meetings have been webcast since November 2010, so anybody can turn in and view live action, and I believe they can see past hearings through our website. We've updated the board website, and we have one of the most active social media programs within the Department of Consumer Affairs. All our meeting materials and newsletters have moved to electronic versions, and they're available again on our website. And as required by law, the board's adopted a notice to consumers that physical therapists and physical therapist assistants are licensed and regulated by the Physical Therapy Board, and specifies how the board can be contacted if they have complaints. It's something that everyone must post in their office, and I'm sure you're familiar with that. As an aside, I want to note that the board has eliminated the protection and distribution of many of our printed materials, so that items that were previously printed can be found on our website. And the board has saved trees as well as the cost of producing the materials. Both that helps our budget. The board's improved its public protection with the following changes. We implemented performance measures in our Consumer Protection Services program, and we used those to improve the efficiency of the enforcement process. Since July of 2011, the board successfully met 22 of the 24 performance goals that are within its control. Obviously, we can't control the Attorney General's office and other offices that we interact with. The board has used its authority granted by the legislature to deny or revoke licenses for those who are required to register as sex offenders. We've also had some changes in licensing exams. Because of some security concerns about the exam, the Federation of State Boards of Physical Therapy, which administers the exam, changed the frequency of its national examination from appointment-based, which meant that you could go online and take the exam based on a computer based on your appointment, to a fixed date testing schedule. And the practical result is that most application requests occur a few times a year instead of a few applications many times during the year. And this change in exam frequency has created some unique challenges for the application and licensing staff, because now staff must process large numbers of applications in short periods of time. Otherwise, applicants cannot sit for exams and then cannot proceed to get a license. So if you're preparing to graduate and you can't get that license, you can't take that exam, then you can't be licensed when you finish with school, and therefore you can't get a job as a licensed practitioner. Also, our California law exam, which tests applicants about California law as it applies to their profession, was updated recently to properly reflect changes in regulation. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Kaiser.
Thank you. We're also preparing for a major technological change with the implementation of BREEZE. The Physical Therapy Board is part of the Release 2 part of the BREEZE project, and it has a projected go-live date of November of this year. Staff has attended numerous trainings and is scheduled to attend a great many more. The committee's heard how difficult the implementation of the BREEZE project will be, and we understand the difficulties this project presents in staffing, in funding, and in transition. We are, however, optimistic about all that BREEZE can provide, its efficiencies, not only for the consumer, but for every application, licensing, and enforcement process. We know that there's a long road ahead, but it is one that we are eager to travel.
And moving forward, as Mr. Kaiser mentioned, we do expect a period of intense work as BREEZE rolls out and in the transition. But, we are eager, and we do have our eyes on the prize of the improvements that it will bring. Also, in the future of 2013, we anticipate the uniform standards to take effect. At the board's February 2013 meeting, draft language was approved, and a regulatory hearing is scheduled for May of this year. This year, we will initiate a needed update to the electromyography examinations. And the Physical Therapy Board will continue the mission of public protection by efficient and responsible operations in all of our functions. In summary, I can speak from the board member perspective and say the review process both in 2011 and 12 was very helpful and revealing. It provided a critical look at our functions, a review of our accomplishments, allowed us to assess our progress and chart our course for continuing the mission. We have learned much and welcome the review process as an opportunity to improve our services to the consumers of California. With that, Mr. Kaiser will specifically address the issues brought up in the background paper.
Thank you, Madam President. In regards to issue number 1, we would not be giving the committee a true picture of our operations if we did not identify our areas of challenge. Contained within the background paper is information regarding our staffing and AG budget needs, and more extensive information is available in our attachment titled Operational Deficiencies. The Board very much appreciates the committee's identification of this as an issue. In order to fill its mission, the PTBC must have a workforce consistent with the workload resulting from its mandate. However, the largest challenge of the PTBC is inadequate budget allotment and position authority necessary to fulfill its mandate. Effectively, the PTBC has been going through growing pains. The details of deficient staffing levels and AG allocation are well summarized in the background paper. Since the last sunset review, the Board has had a significant increase in workload as more physical therapists and physical therapist assistants have obtained licensure. Aside from the application and licensure process, the PTBC has experienced a proportional increase in enforcement workload as well. The enforcement workload has not only increased in frequency of cases, but in complexity and egregiousness. And our complaint history remains consistent, the enforcement program will be unable to meet its performance measures. The PTBC has made numerous attempts to attain a proper staffing level, but like many other boards and bureaus, has been unsuccessful. In addition to our staffing issue, another deficiency affects our Consumer Protection Services program. Our budget allocation for its authority or for its Attorney General costs. For the last 3 years, the PTBC has overexpended its AG allocation. This has forced the Board to divert funds from other budget line items to supplement the AG allocation. For the last 2 fiscal years, the Board has been successful in obtaining an approval for augmentation to that AG line item. And this has helped, and it has allowed us to continue to enforce our mandate. But we have essentially been robbing Peter to pay Paul. This is not a sustainable solution, but merely a Band-Aid. And while we have been very creative in managing to keep our enforcement program afloat, the Board as a whole has suffered. The Sunset Report outlines our concerns of the erosion of consumer protection we fear will occur without changes to our budget. The Board appreciates the committee's recommendations, the restoration of enforcement staffing, the repayment of the general fund loan, and a budget increase for the AG costs. These changes would provide significant relief to the Physical Therapy Board and allow us to continue our mandate of public protection. In regards to issue number 3, in 2004, the PTBC, or the Physical Therapy Board, identified a need to address public and licensee concerns that the Act is complex and difficult to use. Consequently, the Board established the Physical Therapy Practice Act Review Task Force. At the same time, the Federation of State Boards of Physical Therapy developed a Model Practice Act, and the American Physical Therapy Association revised its guide to physical therapy practice. These documents provided reference for the review of a Practice Act. The task force charge was to review the Act for clarity and currency, and the task force recommended revisions, and after review of those revisions, the Board made an adoption of the proposed revisions of the Act in the 2005 Sunset Review report as new issues. The PTBC continues to pursue this issue because the Act is such a crucial document, and as a consumer agency, it is essential for consumers and licensees to easily access and understand, 1, the functions of the Physical Therapy Board, the scope.
Sorry to interrupt. So what's the status of that review? You said you're currently doing a review. What's the current status of the review?
The review of the Practice Act?
Of the Practice Act.
We have proposed revisions, but we have been unable to attain support or an author for those revisions.
Okay.
We would like to assure the committee that the proposed changes have been reviewed by the Board in a detailed manner.
I'm informed you do have an author for those changes. But that's another story.
Pursuant to the open meeting act.
Thank you.
Where should I start?
the issue 3 was regarding whether they had been properly noticed
Sure.
and have received feedback.
And we would like to ensure the committee that the proposed changes have been reviewed by the board in a detailed manner pursuant to the Open Meeting Act. Public and stakeholder comment was encouraged and accepted, including properly noticing the agenda and documenting the review in the meeting minutes since 2004. These materials are posted and remain on the board's website. In addition, since 2010, meetings have been webcast, allowing for greater access to the public. And while a small percentage of the proposed revisions of the Act have been codified, the board continues to seek support for the balance of the proposed revisions. In considering the weight of the changes, the board concurs with the committee's recommendation in separating the proposed revisions from the Sunset Bill, and we do appreciate that. And we'd be happy to field any questions the committee might have.
Okay. The changes to the Act, I understand we are pursuing a separate piece of legislation not associated with the sunset legislation. We do appreciate the fact that you've been working diligently with staff on both issues that we raised. One, on issue 1, we certainly are sensitive to the lack of staff issue. And in fact, we're going to be meeting, staff's going to be meeting with Budget Subcommittee 4 to raise that concern as it impacts not just this board, but other boards as well. We in lots of ways, tying one hand behind the back of the boards if they don't have personnel to do the enforcement that we expect. And so we are going to be having that discussion. We do appreciate that. And we are sensitive to the changes that have been suggested, recommended as a part of the Act. But let me ask you just sort of a general question to all three. The need for major revisions in the Act, is that just because of time, because of changing practices? What's been the real driving force, you think, behind the revisions that the board is recommending that we pursue?
I think the majority of the changes that are proposed are organizational, and that comes from feedback both from the public, the consumer, as well as the profession.
Okay. As it should be, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Any other comments? Members? Any comments? Thank you for your testimony. Are there any public comments? Public, professional, or otherwise comments? Please come right on up.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Senator Price, Assemblymember Gordon, and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to provide comments on the Physical Therapy Board of California Sunset Review Report. I am Stacy Defoe. I'm the Executive Director for the California Physical Therapy Association, which is the professional association for physical therapists in California. We strongly support the continuation of the Physical Therapy Board of California as the primary means of consumer protection regarding physical therapy services in California. In our opinion, the Physical Therapy Board of California represents the highest standards for a licensing board. The board has a very clear mission to protect the consumers of California and a very clear mandate to regulate the practice of physical therapy, and continues to do so in a transparent manner. For example, the board was recently the subject of an audit by the state auditor as requested by the Joint Legislative Audit Committee, and received positive results which suggests the board conducts its business in model fashion. CPTA supports the Physical Therapy Board of California's recommendations for legislative and regulatory changes to the Physical Therapy Practice Act contained in the Sunset Review Report. And we support the committee staff recommendations regarding the 4 current Sunset Review issues. CPTA would especially like to see issue number 1 addressed expediently to ensure that the board may have adequate resources to fulfill its mission and mandate. CPTA commends the board on its past and present efforts toward the advancement and protection of the interests of the public of California, and we hope that the committees will see fit to allow the practice of physical therapy continue to be regulated by the Physical Therapy Board of California and its current members. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Any other public comments? I want to thank those who testified, Deborah Alviso, Jason Kaiser, Karen Walsh, for your comments and for your commitment to the board in meeting not only the consumer protection concerns but also the professional development issues. I mentioned that, in fact, staff is going to be meeting with the Budget Subcommittee 4, talking about staffing issues as it relates to this and a number of other boards. And my chair colleague and I are even receptive to drafting a letter that might come from the committee, again expressing our concern and concern that attention be focused on making resources available so that this and other boards can do their jobs as has been required. So we're with you. We appreciate your comments, appreciate your service, and thank you for your testimony today.